there, I'm Margie Remmers-Davis, founder and CEO of Acadian Accounting Education, and this is a clip from one of our free Class Friday sessions. Stick around to the end and I'll share with you how you can join us live, absolutely free, every week. Now let's jump in.
If you cannot get the sample company to work and you want to work on it in desktop, if you go to the little gear icon, so now I'm in the sample company right now, but it will be under settings and, oh, here it is too. I keep doing that. Yes, you can get the desktop app and that works in, on a Mac, Windows, whatever. I was pulling my hair out yesterday and Lindsay said, well, why aren't you just using the desktop app, Corey? And I said, well, that's a great question, Lindsay. And now we are. So I'm going to be walking through the exercise. So we don't have the extension in the side by side, but if you are using it, then you should be able to see it as well. So basically we're going to be working on reconciling payroll liabilities to the tax filing. So when we talk about like reconciling payroll liabilities to the tax filing, this is included in the cleanup course because it's something that we often have to clean up. But just as bookkeepers, this is an account that we should be reconciling. We should be checking it to make sure that things are not just accruing in there, that if they're using a payroll processor, that it is cycling through and that those payments are going out, and that on the tax return, whichever one it is. So for this one, we're going to use the federal 941 as an example. And we want to make sure that that those tax agencies are receiving the deposits, that they match what is indicated that is due, and that it's not just hanging out in a client's account. This is a huge value add for clients because a lot of them don't think about this. They just assume that their payroll processor is doing all of these things for them and don't realize that payroll processors make mistakes too. So I had this happen recently where I was able to catch it and work on it because I was monitoring the payroll liabilities. And then it can get cleared up before there are lots of issues. So let's get started. So you have the exercise pulled up. It is reconciling payroll liabilities to the tax filing. So the tax filing that we are going to be using is this federal 941, which is available to free to download in the exercise. And when we look at the 941, this can seem a little scary, but what we're really looking at is we're looking at the quarter that the tax filing is for. And then there's a lot of numbers. The numbers that we're mostly going to be interested in are these numbers that are on page 2, which is the tax liability that's being reported, and to make sure that these deposits, these payments were actually made on a monthly basis and that it matches what was due. So we're not necessarily, double checking their payroll calculations unless that's something we're engaged to do. So the first thing that we are going to do is start in the sample company. So hopefully you are there, and then you can download that sample 941 and the CSV. We're going to circle back to the CSV shortly. And that's just so that we can import the data because Craig's landscaping doesn't have any sort of payroll information that we can work with. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is head over to the chart of accounts. You can get there however you prefer. I just like going to the little gear icon and going to the chart of accounts. And we are going to be creating 2 new accounts. Now, the first one is going to be for the payroll liability. So go ahead and click New Account. And we are going to name this FICA and FIT. and then put the 941 in parentheses. So this is just my nomenclature for this account. If you have a different one that you use, you can use that outside of this exercise. We're going to need to use this one for this exercise because when we import the journal entries and the data, it needs to go to this account. So it is, I'm actually I'll put it in the chat so that if anybody wants to just copy and paste it in there. And so this stands for the FICA is the Social Security and Medicare, and then FIT is the federal income tax. And these are both reported on the 941, federal 941. Now this account type is a other current liability, and it is payroll tax payable. So once we have added that, we are going to select Save and New. And we're going to get an error because that just sounds good today. Let me try that again. Let's see. Let's try refreshing. Whoops. Okay, I'm going to turn off my screen share for just a second. Let's get logged back in. Okay. Can we see that again? It looks like we can. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to try that again. So we're going to go to Chart of Accounts and, oh, QuickBooks, you don't want to know right now. We'll share our opinions later. Okay, so FICA, FIT, and then 941, and it's an other current liability, payroll tax payable, and then we are going to save it in new. Good, it worked. Okay, so now this next account, we are not creating like an actual journal entry for payroll. We're just getting the data in there so that we can use it. So I'm going to put this to an account named wage expense. And we are just going to make this an expense. And it is going to be a payroll wage expense. And we're going to ignore this part. It's purely for the purpose of the exercise. So now we have those two accounts set up. We have the FICA account and we have the account that the journal entry is going to go into. Now next we are going to go to import data in that little cog. And you should already have downloaded that CSV. If not, just scroll back a little bit and you'll be able to find it. We're going to be importing journal entries. And again, this is just for getting the data in. We are not to the reconciliation part yet. And we are going to select Browse and, whoops, let me, one second, let me stop my screen share and find this. I had it all prepped and then, so we're going to find this folder. It should just be in your downloads, date added. I'm going to scroll through and find it. So a lot of the different places that you can import in QBO, you can actually import by just dragging and dropping. In this particular section, I'm not sure why they don't do that. It would be so much easier if we could just drag and drop the file the same way we can other places. Okay, so here we go. Now we are back. We've got the file in there and we're going to select next. Now it may map all correctly when you do this. If not, you just need to go through and double check the mappings to make sure that I have everything in the journal entry as easy as possible. I've mapped it all to the same name that it would be otherwise. So the journal number, the column header is journal number, the date is automatically correct, account name. These ones we're not going to even pay attention to these ones down here. I'm not sure why it chose to put those ones in, but it's not going to affect anything. So now we're going to import these 11 new journal entries. We are almost to the good part. Once we get to the good part, you're going to be like, wow, this was easier than importing all of the data. Okay, so now we are going to click OK, and we're going to take a breath because that's the most challenging part. Once we have the data in there, now we can go over to reconcile. So again, however you choose to get to reconcile, there are fewer options now, which is great. But I'm just going to hover over county and go to reconcile. We're going to click through all of these helpful little tips and close them out. And now we are going to go to the account that we are going to reconcile. So this is that FICA Fit 941 account. And I have not been checking. I'm hoping that I haven't been checking the chat. So hopefully if anybody is having any issues, I will circle back. Okay. So this account, we want to reconcile it to $0 because these payroll tax liability accounts, they should be acting similar to a clearing account. And so that means that everything that comes in should go back out. We could go through and do all the calculations to figure out what the ending balance will be at that particular date. I just find that it's easier to do it to $0, and we're going to reconcile it to the quarter. Now, this 941 is for quarter 3 of 2025. And so the ending date will actually be September 30th, 2025. And we are going to start reconciling, and we're going to hope that everything is in there beautifully the way that it should be. Okay, so this part is, if you're in the cleanup course, you know that I like to do things a little bit backwards. I just find that sometimes solving riddles and puzzles, if you know the solution, that working backwards can be really, really helpful. So when we look at the federal 941, we see that first month, the first month tax liability was $2,077. And so with that information, we are going to scroll down to that amount that should have been paid of $2,077. Now, the month that this was incurred was month 1, so that would have been for July. And that means that it would have been due on or before August 15th. And of course, things can be different if you have a semi-weekly scheduled depositor, and you'd be doing the same thing. You would just be doing it, reconciling this semi-weekly according to their Schedule B. We're not going to talk about that right now, though. We are just going with this simple version. So we know that it's $2,077. So the easiest way to do this is we're just going to go through and check all of these that are for the month of July. So July 1st and July 15th. Whoops, I did one too many. And you're going to see that it came to a $0 difference. And when we look at this, we see that we have only July that is in there. And we are, so that looks good for month 1. Now, if there were an issue, we would have to dive deeper and we would have to figure out exactly what is happening. Maybe there's a mapping issue, something like that. But for the purpose of this exercise of simply reconciling it, this is what we're going to do. So then now we're going to go to that month 2. So in month 2, when we look at the 941, we see, that it is $2,076.96. So let's head back over to the reconcile window, and we are going to click $2,076.96, which would have been paid around 15 days after, hopefully around 15 days after the the liability was incurred. So now we can go back through and we can select these ones that are for August. And we hit that $0 balance again. Now, when we look at this, we're going to see that month 3 for $2,076.94, this is not in our reconciliation window. And that is because it happened, that payment cleared for those dates after the reconciliation end date or the statement end date. So we are going to use a little workaround. So when we go to edit info, you'll see that the statement ending date is September 30th. Now we are going to filter transactions. We are going to change this date that we are filtering to, and we are going to filter to the date that we know that the payment cleared. In this case, it's really easy. I created this exercise to make it a little bit more of a simplified version of this, so we know that it was October 15th. We're going to select apply. Now, the statement end date is still the same because we're still working on this quarter 3 filing. But when we scroll down, we see that we now have more dates available. So we see that we have that month 3 liability that was paid on October 15th. So when we go back up here, we can select these, and thankfully we get a $0 difference. So these next ones, we aren't going to reconcile those until quarter 4 against the 941. Now, like I said, there are different ways to do this. This is just the most simplified way that I have found to do it. Then we're going to go ahead and click Finish Now. And again, if you are in the cleanup course, you know that I am a huge fan of the reconciliation report. And it helps us to check our work for one thing. For another thing, it is really important for us to have something that verifies that we've done the work and that we did it correctly. So when we look at the reconciliation report, we see that the total charges were $6,230.90. And on the 941, based on the calculations made by the payment processor, by the payroll processor, that's the liability that was incurred, and the deposits match that. So that's how we got that $0 difference. You can also see that this is for the period ending September 30th, 2025, because this is for the quarter 3 2025 return. So you can also, when you go through the report, there's a lot of other information on there, which we're not going to go over today, but I always recommend clicking the print button, and then you'll have the option to save this as a PDF. Save this, it protects that. It just gives you a little extra peace of mind and reassures you that you have some proof of the work that you've done outside of just what exists inside of QuickBooks. So that's it. It really is that easy to reconcile the payroll liabilities. So did anyone have any questions? Or I see there were a few. I apologize. I don't know how my note taker got in here, but it has a task list if you were looking for one. So yeah, if you're having trouble with the sample company, that is how I ended up with the desktop app yesterday. I hadn't tried it because it kept glitching out. But if you go to the little, I'll share this again. So if you go to the little gear icon when you are logged into your QuickBooks Online accountant and select Get the Desktop app, and then it will walk you through all the steps. That really was it was so much easier. I wish that I had tried that ages ago, but everyone's having that issue. So how did I adjust the date to include the October 15th? So we'll circle back to that. So when you are in here, when let's go to history by account. And I don't think that I can undo it in here. But when we go to reconcile, there is, we want to use the existing experience. When we go to reconcile, so I'm just going to put in just a random date here. But when we go to reconcile, there is this little funnel, this little filter up here, just above the transactions. And when you click that, you can select what date you want it to end on. So either the statement ending date, a custom date, or to include all dates. So what I did is I just changed this date here, and then it automatically will change that it's a custom date, and I'll apply this. Now it still keeps the ending date the same, but it's pulling in that transaction that cleared after the statement ending date. We don't use that feature a lot, but it can be really handy for things like this, where we are kind of reconciling it to a work paper as opposed to an actual statement.
This class comes from our free Facebook group, the QBO Gym Locker Room. Inside, you'll get access to a free QBO QuickStart course, over 100 hands-on exercises, weekly marketing tips, monthly drawings, and more. The link is below. Join us today. We'd love to see you there.